Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
Hello.
And today we're talking about volume 11 of Jujutsu Kaisen. Some big things happening in this one. Though I don't know
Absolutely.
I don't really know though if I have a lot to say before we get into the character discussions here. Do you have anything?
This volume was so good. So incredible. Some of the reveals that happened just literally had me actually saying, let's go out loud. I verbalized my hype and excitement. It was that good. Chapter 90, absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
And there's two reveals. The one in the middle and then the cliffhanger. Both
Yeah.
were hype, fantastic. Maybe the cliffhanger led me astray a little bit, but still, it was very exciting to see that. And yeah, well, as we're sure we'll talk about. So, fantastic volume, loved it. Really excited to see where this arc is going.
Absolutely. And yeah, because it seems like it's not necessarily near the end here. There
No.
still seems to be a pretty decent amount of stuff left for us here. So yeah,
Yep.
super exciting. Very well then, let's dig into these characters, starting with Suguru Geto. Or whoever is using Geto's body now.
He's a fake.
Yeah, like, I did not see that coming at all. Like, I mean, sure, he had the stitches in the forehead, but I mean, I
Right?
think we both just kind of assumed that was just like a
It's an
scar
injury.
from the yeah, like an
Yeah.
injury from the supposed killing blow by Gojo, which we learn now that it was a killing blow. He did actually kill Geto.
Yeah.
So that's good to know at least, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of been wondering, why is he still around? Well, it's because some guy's walking around in his body. Like, what the freak?
Yeah. Like, yeah, someone with a curse technique that allows them to hop between bodies by switching brains. And like, I guess it's a bit vague so far as to exactly how that works. Like, does this
Uh-huh.
person like physically need to like put their own brain into the other body to do this, or is it more like a mind control kind of thing where it can just kind of, I guess, more easily telepathically or whatever you want to say, uh,
Mm-hmm.
make these switches like less physically. I guess. I guess that's a little bit unclear. My guess
Yeah.
though between the two is that it needs to be like a physical moving the brain over
Yeah.
because it's just grosser that way, and I kind of like it.
Agreed. I also think the brain that we see
Mm,
looks like it has some sort of mouth or teeth or something.
yeah,
Didn't it look like that?
it
Or
does.
was
It
that a
does.
symbol? I don't know. So to
Mm,
me, that must mean that it's a different brain, or it's the brain of the curse user. So
mm.
it must be switching and not just a telepathic change.
Right. Yeah, I believe so.
It's like a parasite in a way, like
Right.
taking over the body.
For sure. Mm.
Yeah, so very curious about who this strange zombie man curse user is. I
Uh
mean,
huh.
it's not like he's I want to eat brains or anything like that. He seems like an actual person who's still alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's it's not like he's a curse. He's a curse user with a technique and everything.
Right.
So who is he? Why does he have this desire to work with the curses and create a new world? Uh,
Yeah.
very a lot of questions.
It's like part of me was a little disappointed by the fact that, well, learning that this isn't the real Ghetto, the one that we've been getting to know even closer now through the recent
Ah,
flashbacks and everything, and to
yeah,
find out that it's apparently just an entirely different character, really.
it's certainly a
Though it is
twist,
interesting, though. Yeah.
right? No, I agree with you. It's interesting, and I can't. To be fair, I can't say exactly that I dislike the twist, but I agree with you that maybe there was some potential that was lost with Geto being dead. Although there is that moment where Suguru seems to fight back against the fake Geto,
Right.
just very briefly, like strangling the body.
Yeah.
I wonder, could that mean that in some strange turn of events, Suguru comes back?
I mean, anything can happen, I suppose.
I mean, who knows?
But it
I don't know
is.
how, but
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a bit vague as well, but yeah, that was really interesting. He kind of comes back briefly from beyond the grave. How kind of his soul controlling his body, or
Right. Well,
well, the Ghetto imposter did theorize that the soul and the body were one and the same,
yeah.
but they didn't really come to a conclusion about that when he talked with Mahito about it.
So that's how I felt like the first time I read it, but the second time I read it, it feels like he came to a conclusion that the soul and the body interact with each other depending on the curse user's technique. So it's not black and white where
Mm,
the the soul always leaves the body, like Mahito was saying. Like the soul and the body are separate. Like
right.
that's what Mahito was believing.
True.
But according to, I guess, this fake Ghetto's experience, or not experience, his theory is that depending on the curse technique, the soul and the body act differently.
Mm, mm.
In this case, the body and the soul are one. So that does make me wonder if you remove the brain, could Ghetto come, but then you had to put a new brain in. Like, wouldn't have to be Ghetto's brain, and I'm sure that's probably decayed by now unless it's preserved somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But you're right. Yeah, it definitely seems like I guess the conclusion is that it varies. It's different depending
Yeah,
on the
which I
person.
like. I
Uh,
like that
mm,
conclusion
mm.
because it's a little different. Because usually in a story with the world building, they have like a set determinate. Okay, soul is real. The soul doesn't exist, or you know, this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's like, well, it depends.
Right. Yeah, no, that is nice. That is nice. But then we had Nanako and Mimiko, these two girls who were saved
Yeah.
by the real Ghetto back in the day, or a couple years
Mm-hmm.
ago at least. Um, they came back, which was kind of expected, and they are actually opposing this fake Ghetto now, which I think is really intriguing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested to see how that will unfold because we didn't really get to see much more of that scene after they arrived there.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's interesting since Nanako and Mimiko are opposing Geto just the same way that the main characters are. So like, sure, they are not maybe
Mm-hmm.
not. They may not sympathize with each other like the main characters
Mm-hmm.
and these two girls, but they do share. They have a shared enemy. So
Yeah.
I guess that could be interesting. See what comes from that. My enemy's enemy is my friend and all.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think there's a couple things to take from that. That first off, the original Suguru Geto wanted a world for just sorcerers,
Mm,
and basically to get rid of the monkeys, if you will.
right.
But I don't think he wanted necessarily a world that was strictly for curses. The new world, the new people that the Mahito's group is advocating for or trying to
Right.
create. Right?
No,
Does that
yeah.
sound right?
I think you're right about that. Yeah.
So their motivation is different. Like they're twins, these two, or are they just friends? I can't remember.
Apparently they're twins, or at least there was like a little between chapters page that used the word twins to describe them.
Gotcha. So yeah, I'm assuming that's what the twins would want, to carry out. But I mean, obviously, their focus is getting Geto back, and that leads to my second point. It seems that they had made a promise with fake Geto that he would relinquish the body or let go of Geto.
Mm-hmm.
It almost implied that there is a way to bring Suguru back.
Hmm.
I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they just wanted his body, just let it rest in peace,
Precise. Yeah,
which is totally
that was more
acceptable.
my interpretation, though. Who knows, really?
Right. Yeah, who knows? But anyway, just very interesting things from them. And I think we
Absolutely.
see at one point there's a page where it's all surrounding the ceiling box or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and you see them in a shard. So
Mm.
I'm sure they will play a role potentially sabotaging, or at least trying to sabotage fake Ghetto's plans.
Mm,
I'm guessing.
for sure. Yeah, I mean they seem like they're definitely opposing him quite clearly
Yeah.
now. So yeah,
I'm glad they're back, to be honest,
yeah, same.
because we had wondered, like, well, especially since they were featured in the previous arc, just briefly, but they were brought back. It's like, well, whatever
Mm,
happened to them? But
exactly. Yeah.
now we know.
But is there anything else on them or Geto?
Just breakdown of fake Geto. He can use all of Geto's techniques and curse energy.
Right.
I guess it just that's what happens when you transfer the brain into the new body. You get all that, which
Right.
is one of the reasons why he wanted Geto in the first place.
Yeah.
Also for the clincher against Gojo, and it doesn't seem that fake
Mm,
Geto really knew Gojo personally, although maybe there is some backstory there,
yeah.
but it seems just that he knew Gojo was just so overpowered, like because like everyone knows.
Right. Precisely.
Um,
Precisely.
and this was the only way to bring him, or at least the best way to bring him down. Um, so it was quite a devious plan,
Mm-hmm.
and seems to be working.
I mean, yeah, it really really did work. So that was smart. Like he seems to be at this point. I feel like he, and maybe along with the monk kid that also appears briefly in this volume. I feel like the
Yeah.
two of them are kind of the masterminds, maybe
Hmm.
in the evil operations.
So it would seem.
Hmm.
Really, just using the curses and their ambitions for their own gain.
Because I feel like, I mean, because like Mahito also has a lot of authority in the group, but
Yeah.
this volume showed that the monk kid definitely also has some good authority, evidently, uh,
Hmm.
and obviously the Geto imposter does. But I feel like
Hmm.
out of the three, the monk kid and the Geto imposter seem to be the smartest. Mahito doesn't seem to be that clever.
Yeah, he's too immature,
Mm.
almost pre-adolescent in a way.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
but
Yeah.
and yeah, I can't see. I mean, maybe during fighting he can come up with schemes, sure, but he doesn't seem like a person who is pulling the strings. But
Right.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, but no, but that's also the impression I get.
Yeah. But anyway, whether Fake Geto's the one and along with the monk kid are the ones pulling the strings or not, it's reinforced that Fake Geto wants to create a new world.
Mm.
Is it similar to Mahito and the other curses vision? I I guess so. I'm not.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, we need to learn more about him, obviously, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's the new world that the original Geto would have wanted.
Yeah, right. No, I agree.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Then next, let us talk a bit about Satoru Gojo. He was sealed in the prison realm as kind of expected,
Mm-hmm.
and the way the sealing worked was interesting, I thought.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about kind of the reason and or kind of the Geto imposter's or at least part of his reason for taking the form of Geto made a lot of sense given the gimmicks of the sealing realm or the prison realm, and how that
Mm-hmm.
form really was the reason why it worked. Why,
Yeah.
yeah, to get Gojo sealed in there, and he really got played because of that. Sadly.
Yeah. I mean, Fake Geto really knew or guessed correctly that Gojo would be so shocked by what he saw that
Mm.
even when his or even in his domain expansion, he would be able to get that 1 minute of time. Even though that 1 minute of time only would seem like a millisecond to us, if that. So he knew his stuff. And then Gojo's side, I mean, you can't really blame him for trying to process literally seeing his best friend walking around
Mm-hmm.
as if he was still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that Akutami set it up was quite good in that you had that domain expansion with the zero point 0.2 seconds and everything, and explaining how time works a little bit differently for Gojo during that time. And then you have an instance where an enemy uses that against him, and yeah, it's quite interesting, and it flows rather well, I think.
Actually, though, maybe I'm maybe I'm the one who misinterpreted, but I just wanted to double check.
Mm-hmm.
When he used the domain expansion for like 0.2 seconds, that was before
Mm-hmm.
the prison realm.
Yes.
So those two
Yes.
instances were not related.
No, they are in that. I think you're misunderstanding me. They are in that he uses that moment, and as soon as he that 0.2 seconds, like this domain expansion is still activated.
Is it?
I think so. I mean, everyone's
I
still
didn't.
in a
I
daze.
didn't.
Don't you remember? Everyone's still in a daze. Like, you
Right.
know, they haven't woken up because it's still technically activated.
I thought they was just in the days because they were. It was kind of the shock from that 0.2 seconds of the domain.
Did they say that?
Well, wasn't it stated that the domain was only open or activated for 0.2 seconds? Like he would have closed it off immediately.
Huh.
At least that's how I interpreted it, but I could be wrong.
I guess I could be wrong too. Of course.
um, I mean, it says a domain expansion of 0.2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be active after that with that 0.2 seconds. I would guess.
Hmm. I guess what I'm saying is that the zero point 0.2 seconds would be the zero point 0.2 seconds in our world, but to Gojo it's much longer,
Hmm.
and therefore during the time that he sees Geto, it's still within that zero point 0.2 seconds because he's and then he processes it. It takes a minute for him to process it because I feel like in order for that minute to work, you still have to be within that domain expansion, wouldn't you? Because why would time work differently for him?
Because in
Just
his
in
head, it was just in his head. He was just reliving all those memories with his friend, and that was like the metaphorically time. All that time passed for him.
hmm.
At least that's how I saw it. It says after he used the 0.2 second domain expansion, it says that everyone was left standing unconscious, and then it goes on to say like how they were rehabilitated afterward. But it goes on to say here that the approximately 1,000 transfigured humans who had been released within basement floor 5 of the Fukutoshin line would be annihilated 299 seconds after the deactivation of the domain at the hands of the strongest jujutsu sorcerer alive. And
Mm-hmm.
this was mentioned on the page before the prison realm box is thrown, like tossed in front of Gojo before it even opens.
Hmm.
So by then it should have been deactivated.
Okay, that's fair. I can buy that, or buy that to God. Like that's definitely it.
Mm.
I I feel like it just doesn't make sense that a minute would pass in Gojo's brain, unless it was still within like this domain expansion thing. This doesn't make sense to me.
I think it can be justified as like a metaphorically because he was reliving all of his time with his best friend. I think that's what it was, and that it worked that way.
Eh, I don't know. I don't know why is all of a sudden being metaphorical.
It's the only way I
Metaphorical,
can
you
make
know?
sense of it, at least.
Yeah.
So that's just how I've accepted it.
Fair enough. Okay, well, I unfortunately like it less now, but I mean,
Oh.
it's still an interesting prospect.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting.
I don't know. I still feel like that after the deactivation, you could even argue that it wasn't deactivated at the moment you see that panel. It could have been after the events of what happened. That's when it deactivated. You could still technically argue that, but I'm not gonna go on and on about it.
Okay, okay.
Um,
I guess yeah. I guess we can leave it here. We've made our interpretations clear, and and anyone
oh,
who
to
can
be fair, I'm sure I'm wrong. It's just I just don't
oh
like the
ah
I just don't like the. It was a metaphor. It's like what?
or whatever.
That,
Maybe metaphorically is the wrong phrasing for it. Regardless, like yeah, like the in his thoughts, all that time passed, and I guess that is metaphorically. Uh, either way, whoever knows better than either of us, please comment on YouTube or join our Discord and talk to us about how things really are. But I think a lot of these gimmicks and stuff are kind of funky sometimes.
Hmm.
um, and I think this is kind of in line.
It's just sad because I thought it finally worked in some way.
Oh,
I was like,
oh,
oh, that's really cool, and then it doesn't, and it's like,
oh, I see.
okay, well, I'm a little let down now.
Aw, that's a shame.
You don't have to feel that way.
Oh well. um, but but yeah, I mean, he did. Gojo did get sealed in that, and right now, I guess the box is still kind of adjusting to Gojo's intense power level in there, so it can't really be moved currently. But
Hmm.
supposedly, it will. You will be able to carry that around later, or someone will be. Currently in the story, everyone's kind of supposedly going after that now. Everyone's out to rescue Gojo. And I guess I could have saved this for predictions, but since I'm already on it, I don't think they're going to succeed right here in rescuing Gojo from the prison realm.
Mm.
I think he's going to be trapped in there for a decent amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say how long, but I do feel like he'll be trapped for a good amount of time. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like if you're gonna have really great progression from the cast,
Mm.
I think you need Gojo out of the picture so that they can rise to the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But Gojo does seem pretty confident that he will be saved by them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Time is well, I don't know. I don't know how time passes for him, but at the very least, it seems to be at a standstill.
Mm.
Like it's not moving. So I don't know if it's gonna seem instantly to him, or
Oh
if
yeah.
he's actually gonna feel the however long it takes that within the box. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
either way,
Mm.
he seems pretty confident that they will come save him.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that he has so much faith in everyone, as he says.
Hmm.
That is great. And I think it's not necessarily a totally new side of him, but it's a side of him that we don't see often because we often see this more cocky, kind of self-centered side of Gojo in a
Hmm.
way. But now seeing the fact that he actually has faith in the others, that they can succeed even without him, I think that's awesome to see.
I think it shows his growth from what we saw in the previous arc with in his backstory and everything.
Mm.
I think if Gojo had in theory been captured at that point, been sealed away, I think he would have been freaking out within that realm. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be here forever. No, there's no one strong enough who can save me.
Right, right.
Things like that. But I think as an adult, he realizes he can trust other people, and he feels that the rising generation is going to be just as good as he is, not better, just as good.
Exactly. Of course. Yeah, yeah. I think that is accurate. Then next up, let's talk about Takuma Ino a little bit. This guy who really looks up to Nanami apparently, which is pretty cute, I think. Kind of his dynamic with Nanami, and we get to actually see his powers or learn about his powers, his curse technique, which I thought was really cool. How he can become like this kind of like a spiritual medium by hiding his face, and by doing so, he can summon these four different beasts.
Hmm.
We didn't get to see it as much as I would have liked,
Mm-hmm.
but either way, I hope he's not done here, because I'm a little bit worried for him in the moment that the book leaves him
Yeah.
at. But I hope he's not done because I want to see a lot more of him, at least in action.
Right. This was one of the guys that I had kind of predicted would could potentially be a casualty, mostly because there wasn't much about him, and he didn't seem like that much of a character. And I still kind of feel that way,
Mm.
but I do kind of agree with you that it would be a shame if we never got to see more about his technique
Mm.
or just more about the person in general. And with that being all said, he did definitely got wrecked. So
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what is going to happen to the man. Maybe he's able to escape or fight back. I mean, that'd be pretty boss.
For sure.
But
That would be that
yeah,
that would be fighting basically a character that we know is insanely powerful.
Uh-huh.
But fighting back against that, yeah, I would love to see that in the next volume if we can.
To be fair, this story is not shy. Well, maybe I'm giving it more credit, but it does feel like, especially with again the previous arc, uh, we had some deaths that were pretty quick. You know,
Yep.
maybe a couple volumes or so. Well, really, with just one volume, and maybe like deaths are gonna be a little quicker
Yeah.
now. Maybe.
I wouldn't be too surprised
Yeah.
because you're right. It has happened several times. Just quite sudden deaths.
Yeah. I think what's guaranteed is that the main trio probably won't die.
Yeah, they're probably safe.
At least, at least this arc. But everyone else, you just never know. Kind of fair game.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. Something I thought was really interesting, though, kind of related to Ino's curse technique, was how his opponents on the roof, they seem to recognize his abilities somehow.
Really?
Like or at least they made a comment when they saw his curse technique in use. Something that made it seem to me like they either recognized it or were familiar with it or something like that, which made me think that what if there's a connection maybe to like the granny's ability to channel spirits of the dead somehow, like how she does that, like because I think she is a medium in a way, in the way she uses her curse technique, similarly maybe to the way Ino is a medium for the beasts that he summons. Though it's very unclear, and it was only like a pass by comment, like a very quick little comment from them. So I don't know for sure, but it intrigued me, and I hope that they'll elaborate more on that in the next volume.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, grandma. That's just yes. What are the chances?
Right.
I'm thinking it has to be they have a similar technique, and that's why.
Though it would be fun if there was something more to it. Maybe.
Yeah. It would mean that Ino's probably not dead yet. So.
Right, exactly. There's that. So I'm hoping for it. For sure. But is there anything else on Takuma Ino?
That's all I got.
All right. Next, just briefly, let's talk about Kiyotaka Ichichi. Speaking of sudden deaths, he he had a sudden death in this volume, sadly. Which honestly, it saddened me more than I expected it would. We hadn't seen him in a couple books, I feel like, but
oh yes,
he was still pretty, like, relatively prominent in the early volumes.
Yeah.
And he's just such an innocent guy. Like,
right.
Oh man.
Feels like a lot of those guys in suits are gonna be picked off.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Really makes you wonder what the Jujutsu world is gonna look like after this battle. I mean, are they just gonna really be handicapped so far that they can't handle all of the curses and everything? It makes it feel like they're just gonna the curses are really gonna put a big blow on them.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I had obviously been expecting Gojo being sealed and how that would really like make all of the Jujutsu sorcerers as a whole weaker, because lacking Gojo is a big downside. And with that, I hadn't really thought that they would lose any others, because like I felt like it was enough to just lose Gojo. But apparently they're losing others. I mean, at least we lost Ichichi here, and there's a chance we can lose more. I feel like at this point, I feel like there's a chance we can lose others in this arc as well. So yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But was there anything else on Ichichi?
No.
Let's talk a bit about Mekamaru.
Yeah, that was so hype when he landed on Yuji's ear. It was like, he's back. Let's go. He's not dead. And then the next chapter is like, I'm dead probably.
Yeah.
Well, dang. Still excited, but darn.
Yeah, right. No, I felt similarly, for sure. But yeah, it's interesting how, despite being dead, he is able to communicate the way he does. I wonder how. I had a guess as like maybe he had like some leftover cursed energy stored up somewhere, and that he's somehow doing it using that in some manner.
I think he just planned 3 steps ahead and had sent out this backup just in case he would be dead.
Right, but it's
And it's still able to be activated even though he is dead.
sure, but it's like he's interacting with them. It's not just recordings. Like he's actively
Yeah.
interacting, which makes him feel alive, obviously, right now, but he
Mm-hmm.
isn't. So yeah, there is
Mm-hmm.
some kind of cursed technique at play. I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, he was definitely planning ahead for sure.
I still kind of hope he's not dead though. not not to say that this is indication that he could be alive. Again, I think this is just kind of a curse energy that, although it is interacting with Yuji and them, it's I think it's still like kind of recorded type situation. Not that it again, not that he's reading recorded lines or anything like that. He's still interacting. It's just that it's not the actual Mechamaru who's controlling it, in my opinion. Um, but I do hope that Kokichi's alive out there
Hmm.
and able to come back to the story, but fortunately, uh, doesn't look too likely.
Sadly, not. Yeah, yeah.
But it's cool to see, even though he's dead, to see him taking charge of the operation, guiding Yuji where
Mm-hmm.
he can, and things like that.
For sure. Yeah, he was really crucial in this volume. Like, he was a great help.
Yeah, it does make his death sting a little less and give him
Yeah.
a side to assist the good guys, if you will.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I wonder if he's going to like in the next volume or something, if he's going to get to interact with Panda or something like that. Because
That would be cool.
I think because they had a little thing going, and I know we know that Panda is present here.
Uh huh.
Um, Sadly, I don't think there are any Kyoto students present though. So
Miwa.
Panda would be the best one for him to talk to if we wanted like any kind of heartfelt moment or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But next, let's talk a little bit about Yuta Okutsu. He was mentioned again for the first time in a while, I feel like.
Yeah,
Um,
that was awesome.
that was awesome, and we got a good artwork of him, and it's pointed out that he has immense amounts of cursed energy, apparently, as well as the ability to copy cursed techniques. Was all of that established in Zero? I don't think so, but I could be misremembering.
Honestly, when they said it, I was like, yeah, that's right. So I actually can't confidently tell you
Mm,
yes
mm.
or no.
Yeah, and I'm also a bit torn on it, but regardless, I'm excited to see you to come back into the story because the farther we get now, I feel like we're getting close. I feel like to his eventual reappearance here.
Right, right, yeah. And I also like how he was brought up. Go just kind of like smirks is like, do you forget who actually beat Geto, the original Geto? I
Yeah.
mean, it was my boy Yuta. Like, come on.
hmm Next, let's talk a bit about Choso. He wants to avenge his brothers by killing Yuji and Nobara. Makes sense.
Indeed.
They lived
Mm-hmm.
for each other, so I can totally
Mm-hmm.
understand that. Uh, and apparently, Jujutsu High has the remaining 6 death painting wounds as well, and so Joso wants to retrieve them too. Um, or at
Mm.
least the comment he made, it sounded like he knew that Jujutsu High had the remaining 6.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I don't think Mahito took them all. So uh, I think it would be
yeah,
pretty, yeah, pretty certain that Jujutsu High had the
I
rest.
just hadn't assumed that Jujutsu High necessarily had all 9, you know.
Oh,
But
I
now,
don't know why I assumed that, but I did.
I mean, hey, you were right at least. But now we know for sure at
Doesn't
least.
happen often.
But yeah, so that's probably gonna come into the picture eventually. Um, so that's something I'm interested in because I have definitely started to become more and more interested in this whole thing, like in these death painting wombs, and their origin and all of that is interesting to me, and like the connection to the Kamo family and all.
Mm-hmm.
But anything more on Choso?
For now, no.
Next, a bit about Mahito then.
Yes.
So similar to Choso, Mahito now also wants to kill Yuji, which was a fun turn, I thought.
I mean,
Because
yeah,
he doesn't think they need Sukuna anymore.
right.
In order to win.
It does feel like he always kind of wanted to kill Yuji, but
Mm.
Sukuna's with him. Dang it! Oh,
Yeah, right.
can't really do it. But
Mm.
I think, yeah, like you said, now that they don't need Sukuna, it's like, well, then I can have fun with my arch nemesis. It'd be
Mm-hmm.
great.
Right, right.
And it's interesting, like his theorizing about that is that with Sukuna it would just be too easy. if if we brought him, it'd just be too one sided, and that's not fun.
Yeah, right.
That's
I also, I don't know. I also have a feeling that he, like a part of him is also a bit intimidated by Sukuna.
Ooh, I can see that.
Since the one time when he touched Sukuna's soul, that was not a fun moment for Mahito.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nah.
so I think he, like, part of him also just wants to avoid it because he's intimidated. I think, though that wasn't outright spoken here, but yeah.
Right. Well, another layer to it, and I think kind of Jogo kind of brought it up, is that Sukuna would be this overwhelming presence, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and they wouldn't the current curses like Mahito and Jogo wouldn't necessarily be in control. It would definitely be Sukuna.
Yeah.
So with removing him out of the picture, they can stay in control.
Precisely.
Although Jogo is not so keen on the idea, which we can talk about.
Yeah, actually, we can talk a little bit about that here.
Sure.
The fact that Mahito and Jogo are now kind of on opposite side. I mean, they are probably still teammates on some level, but they
Yeah.
do have completely opposing views on what to do with Yuji, which I think is interesting. Like for that villain group to have those starkly different ideas as to what to do with the main character of the story.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was kind of fun, and then it becomes a competition,
Right?
to find Yuji first.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Hmm.
And I guess speaking of Jogo, I really liked how, just in a comedic, totally comical sense, he freaked out when Geto told him 1 minute. I thought that was.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he was very serious, but it was just kind of funny how he's freaking out over a single minute. And there's no way we could do that in 1 minute.
Yeah.
It's just so funny.
Really is really funny.
Again, it shows just how overwhelming Gojo is.
Right. And like I kind of admire Jogo's seriousness about all of that. Like and about all of this kind of, and his dedication to the cause, I guess, even though obviously it's I don't agree with them, but like I can still kind of admire his dedication to it. The fact that he's like seemingly the only one who's really sticking with the plan,
Yeah.
and all that. So yeah, I'm starting to find him a little bit more intriguing now, actually.
He's like, I mean, besides the supposed masterminds behind this group, he seems to be the only one with common sense.
Somehow, yeah, right? Yeah.
At least when it comes to Mahito and Choso. I mean, Choso is different because he's just doing his own agenda. But obviously, Mahito just I don't think he sees the broader picture.
Nah.
In a lot of ways, but again, immaturity.
Mm-hmm.
He's a preteen. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Going back to Mahito, I just really just want to highlight a cool moment using his powers with Choso in the first chapter, which eventually causes Gojo to go 0.2 second mode.
Right.
But it was just their powers combined was really cool. Horrible, absolutely terrible what they were doing, but cool. I think I can't wait to see that animated, along with everything else in this volume. It's such a good volume that I'm sure will be an incredible animation feast.
Right? Yeah. Seriously, this entire Shibuya part gonna be awesome.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Then next, let's talk a bit about Jiro Awasaka, one of these villains that we got in the latter half of the volume. his first name I don't think was ever mentioned in the actual chapters, but it was mentioned on a
Okay,
between chapters page. His name is
gotcha.
Jiro. Awasaka was mentioned as his name in the chapters. But
Hmm.
either way, the funniest thing about him, in my opinion, is his design. I think his face looks like a Daruma doll to me, which wouldn't surprise me if that
Yeah,
was the intention,
yeah.
because it does kind of fit with a lot of the themes of this story and the aesthetics of a lot of things and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, but I just thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. No, yeah, I like that comparison.
But obviously, like the gimmicks of his curse technique were pretty interesting as well. Like the inverse curse technique.
It's a neat power.
Yeah, right. And I liked. I mean, again, yeah, cool idea for a power, Akutami. Um, and I think that this one worked. Like the explanations for it make sense. Like it's a system that I can grasp, pretty easily. And
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yep. Yep. I mean, that's another fight. Another fight that's going to be great to see animated.
Oh yes.
Um, it, I mean, same thing with a lot of fights in this manga. It's not incredibly long when you compare it to other ones, but it, I mean, other ones in other shonen manga, fighting manga, but
Hmm.
um, it's still like jam packed with uh, choreography
Yeah,
and excitement. So yeah, it was a good one.
absolutely. Then there was Granny Ogami, who can make herself and others shapeshift into dead people. That's fun.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's pretty wild. That's really wild, honestly. Like the way, like obviously, like with Toji Fushiguro, like
Man,
it's like
of all the
about
people.
yeah, right. But it's like, but I wonder, like, to what extent did he transform into Toji Fushiguro here? Like,
Right.
are they like channeling his actual spirit and like everything about him being him,
Oh my
or
gosh, his spirit.
and
Oh
like
man.
if that's the case, like, could this be seen that, or I don't know, I don't know. No, it's probably not 100% like bringing the person back to life. Like it can't be that. I reckon the guy who took his form is still in control of the body, right?
It's gotta be right.
Similarly to how in that flashback we got to when the granny was shapeshifting into that young girl, she was in control of that body.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
with that in mind, I would assume this is not like Toji controlling this fight. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
think so.
I mean,
No.
I think it has to be the lanky guy
Hmm.
in control. Like it just it doesn't make sense compared to what we know of her powers.
Uh huh.
Uh that being said, we did have that moment between Geto and Mahito when they were talking about the body and the spirit
Yeah.
or his soul.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, I guess it depends on the technique. So, but is this another instance where it depends on the technique? At,
Oh.
at this point, it seems like the soul and the body are separate, right? You know, because as we see the grand, like with like you mentioned, the granny controlled her body, and there
Yeah.
was no soul
Yeah.
interference or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
So I guess maybe this technique follows the Mahito theory.
Right.
uh,
True. True.
so
Mm.
maybe yeah, maybe that does mean that Toji is not gonna come back for real.
Right.
But
I
either
hope so.
way, it does. Uh, I mean, I don't know what kind of havoc that would cause.
Yeah.
Although it certainly would be hype
Yeah.
in all sorts of wrong ways. But at the very least, it seems that all of his just immense strength transferred over in the summoning process.
Precisely. Yeah.
So
So we know at least that much is very clear, like his speed, his strength, and all that. And
yeah,
presumably, like the fact that he has zero cursed energy and all that is probably also true for this body right now.
uh,
I would assume. So like, yeah, it's intimidating. Then let's move on to predictions. Well, I already mentioned that I think Gojo is going to remain sealed for well,
Yeah.
quite a while.
Yeah.
Until I think rather much later in the story.
So you're thinking beyond this arc for sure, right?
For sure, beyond this arc, yeah. Like honestly,
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if he remains sealed for as many volumes as he was not sealed before he got sealed.
Wow. Yeah.
At least roughly, like something like that. Because I feel like yeah, he's gonna be out for a good long while. It's my thinking.
I think that's fair.
Hmm.
And it will be if he's still sealed after this arc, it will be quite a tragic moment for the bad guys to get away with Gojo. And there's something juicy about that story wise. So the heroes failing, yeah, that's
Right.
kind of juicy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm down with that prediction. I think what I'm most interested in well, two things. Toji and Megumi potentially interacting.
Ooh.
Not so much Toji himself because we don't. Again, as we had the discussion,
Yeah.
it seems like his spirit's not there.
Sure.
But would Megumi recognize his dad? Would be like, hey, that guy looks like me.
Yeah.
What the freak? You know?
Right. Yeah.
Would
like,
that happen?
true.
Would there be some sort of awakening
yeah.
in Megumi?
Precise, because he doesn't know necessarily that his dad is dead.
Yeah, I guess not.
Unless
Gojo told him.
Because I believe briefly, if I recall, briefly in the flashback at the end there, Gojo was about to tell him, but Megumi interrupted him and said that he doesn't care. So he never got the information, if I remember correctly.
Oh. Wait a minute. Are you thinking about Yuji and his grandfather talking about his parents?
No. Well,
because that definitely happened.
But yeah, no. This though this was similar. I think.
Really? Oh, okay.
I'm quite sure.
I can't remember exactly.
That's interesting though that you brought up the Yuji thing with how he didn't want to hear about his parents from his granddad. Because the way I remember the Megumi thing when Satoru when Gojo came to tell him about his dad, yeah, I believe their reactions were sort of similar. So that's interesting. That's funny.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, so that I'm kind of anticipating that will happen. I mean, they're so close together.
Yeah, right.
Skyscraper apart. So I feel like there has to be the interaction.
Yeah, I would love that.
I'm also kind of curious if there was a particular reasoning for summoning Toji in this fight, other than being like, okay, we need the strongest thing ever.
Right.
Let's go.
Uh-huh.
But it could be just as simple as that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I'm most interested about is who will find Yuji first of the curses.
Oh yeah.
Who's gonna win this? Who's gonna win this fight? And I'm gonna put money on Choso.
Ooh.
I'm saying Choso because I just think the fight would be interesting. We haven't really seen him in a true one-on-one battle with anybody yet,
right.
I feel like.
Yeah, and in general, we haven't seen him in action all that much. Like, there was a bit there by the trains and stuff, but there wasn't much focus on him. So, yeah. I think I'm with you there for that reason,
cool.
That it would be just really cool to see him in action properly.
I also think it'd be funny if Jogo were to get there and be like, okay. Look, I'm not trying to kill you. I just need you to come with me. Like, I don't. Maybe it could be funny to see. Yuji just tries to wreck him, and he's like, no, please. I don't know. I mean, obviously, he has no good intentions whatsoever.
No. It's true.
It could be, but no, I'm putting money on Choso.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
A bit on something that Ino said, how he pointed out that there's likely both evil curse users and cursed spirits, who kind of been staying in the shadows for a long time, because of Gojo's presence in the world, kind of. Mm-hmm. But that now that Gojo is being sealed, and assuming that he will stay sealed for an extended period of time, that these villains may become a bigger problem and kind of come out and be more out there.
We definitely saw that with the grandma and the Dharma guy.
Right, yeah, right. In
So
a way, we've already started seeing it
yeah,
although it seemed like they were more in on the plan, like cooperating directly with
true.
like the main villains.
Right. They were technically the ones who made the veil, the curtains, or
Precisely.
whatever.
Um, so I guess they're slightly different because what I kind of got from Ino's point there was that this means that just a bunch of different villains can pop up, both curses and curse users, um, that are not necessarily with the main villains, but that are just bad in their own way, kind of. And just the world will just turn into chaos, more or less, more and more
Mm-hmm.
at least. And so that's something I can see could see
Oh boy.
starting like kind of progressively starting to happening from here on out. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
that could be pretty interesting. And I guess speaking of Ino, just a bit worried about him as we were saying.
Of
But
course, yeah.
maybe we did talk enough about that earlier. But yeah, he
Yeah.
is all alone up there, and yeah,
I I literally wrote down in my predictions: is Eno dead? Fight still going on? I have no idea.
he took a punch from this guy who was like known to be unbelievably powerful.
I
That could have killed
feel
him,
like
I
it was more
guess.
than I feel like it was more than just a punch. It wasn't like a rapid punch. I don't know. Wait, hold up. I need to double check.
Something. Yeah, I mean he took heavy damage regardless.
Big time.
I want to be optimistic about this, but this is a really dire situation for him, to be honest. Like, and the more I think
Yeah.
about it now, the more I'm realizing it. I'm sort of thinking at best he will survive, but he's going to be knocked out for the rest of this arc, kind of.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, you're probably right. But it's like it's like you were saying, like the potential, and he just got started getting some. But maybe that's what makes it tragic, is that we were just trying to get a little bit more information and wanting to see more. Then boom, it takes away from us.
Yeah, and I guess
At least at this point.
right, precisely. It would be okay if he just survived to fight another day. Then
Yeah.
it could still work out.
Yeah. I agree.
So yeah, just let him live. That's all I ask. But yeah, I think I'm good for this week.
As am I. Ready to go read the next volume.
Lovely. Yes, so excited. So excited. Yeah, we are really in probably one of the better arcs of the story, at least so far for sure.
At least
It's
so far.
maybe the best arc so
Definitely.
far, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, super stoked for volume 12. Gonna read that, yeah, right away probably. And yeah, sweet. So, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by rating our show on the podcast platforms and subscribing to our channel, Umami Manga, on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about Volume 12. Bye bye!
See you later.
I guess it's called X now. Twitter.
So freaking stupid.
It is. So dumb.
It's like some middle schooler had the idea of renaming Twitter.
Yeah.
You know,
Seriously.
It's like, oh man, X sounds so much cooler, guys.
I honestly, I still kind of, I'm in denial about it still. I'm like, this is a joke, right? They're pulling our legs, right?
I'm never gonna accept it. You know, years later, I'll still call it Twitter, even if it hasn't changed back.
Everybody will, yeah.
It's such a dumb change.